Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Baradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Baradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Baradhari. Jana Balaba Giri Baradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Baradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Balaba Giri Baradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Radhe Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Tagore Hari Bol. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18, Text 42. Aprichattanayam purum Vayasonam gunadikam Natvam agrajavadvatsa Mam pratyakyatum ahasi Aprichattanayam purum Vayasonam gunadikam Natam agrajavadvatsa Mam pratyakyatum ahasi. Someone else?
Aprichattanayam purum Aprichattanayam purum Vayasonam gunadikam Vayasonam gunadikam Natvam agrajavadvatsa Natvam agrajavadvatsa Mam pratyakyatum arhasi Mam pratyakyatum arhasi Aprichattanayam purum
Aprichattanayam purum Vayasonam gunadikam Natam agrajavadvatsa Mam pratyakyatum ahasi. Aprichattanayam purum Vayasonam gunadikam Natam agrajavadvatsa Mam pratyakyatum ahasi. Word for word. Aprichat, requested. Tanayam, the son. Purum, puru. Vayasa, by age. Unam, although younger. Guna adikam, better than the others by quality. Na, not. Tvam, you. Agrajavat, like your older brothers. Vatsa, my dear son. Mam, me. Pratyakyatum, to refuse. Ahasi, ought. Translation. King Yayati then requested Puru, who was younger than these three brothers, but more qualified, "My dear son, do not be disobedient like your elder brothers, for that is not your duty." We'll read also the next verse, because Prabhupada doesn't give purport to this verse, so we'll read next verse with purport. Sri Puru uvacha konu loke manushyendra pitu atma krita puman pratikartum chamo yasya prasadad vindate param. Translation. Puru replied, "O your majesty, who in this world can repay his debt to his father? By the mercy of one's father, one gets the human form of life which can enable one to become an associate of the Supreme Lord." Purport. The father gives the seed of the body, and this seed gradually grows and develops until one ultimately attains the developed human body with consciousness higher than that of the animals. In the human body, one can be elevated to the higher planets, and furthermore, if one cultivates Krishna consciousness, one can return home back to Godhead. This important human body is obtained by the grace of the Father, and therefore everyone is indebted to his Father. Of course, in other lives, one also gets a father and mother. Even cats and dogs have fathers and mothers. But in the human form of life, the father and mother can award their son the greatest benediction by teaching him to become a devotee. When one becomes a devotee, he achieves the greatest benediction because he completely averts the repetition of birth and death. Therefore, the father who trains his child in Krishna consciousness is the most benevolent father in this world. It is said, "Janame janame sabe pitamata paya Krishna guru nahi mile bhaje hari ay." Everyone gets a father and mother, but if one gets the benediction of Krishna and Guru, he can conquer material nature and return home back to Godhead. So this story is a very ancient story of King Yayati. And of course King Yadu is very famous, being the son of King Yayati, because Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty. King Yadu was a very, very religious king, very pious king. And somehow or other, it's mentioned here by Prabhupada and by the Acharyas, that somehow he knew that Krishna was going to appear in his line, in his dynasty. So therefore Krishna is known as coming in the Yadu line, in the Yadu dynasty. And here we find that King Yayati is asking all his sons to exchange their youth and take his old age, because he got the curse. He got the curse by Sukracharya, wasn't it? By the Sukracharya cursed him because he went with Samishta, and Devayani was his wife, but he went with her maidservant Samishta. And so he got the curse. King Yayati got the curse to lose all his youth, even though he was still young, youthful. Still he got the curse to lose. Yeah, very ancient stories, going right back to King Nahusha. I think in the last chapter, wasn't it, was the King Nahusha. King Nahusha was also a very famous story in the Puranas, in the Mahabharata also the story is told. How he got the curse also. Very, very great religious king. Very pious, very powerful, very compassionate, and very humble. And it was Indra who had killed Ritrasura and regretted his killing of Ritrasura. King Indra being so despondent, and left his throne and went hidden, and no one could find him. So the Devas were without any king to their heaven. So they asked, they came and approached. They were thinking, who could be the king? Not good that we don't have the king, because the Asuras are always attacking. So we need the king to guide us and organize us, and he is a very powerful. And so they were thought, who could be the king? And they thought of King Nahusha, who was the earth king, but he had performed 100 Ashvamedha Yagyas. He had very, very elevated, very pious, had all good qualities. So they thought that this one will be very good to be the king. And even amongst us, we cannot see, but he will be the one. So he was very shocked, actually, that they came. When they came, all the devas came to see him, and he was very shocked to be asked, and said, no, there must be amongst you someone who is very qualified. No, we want you to do it, and you are very qualified. So they explained everything to him, and so King Nahusha agreed to be the Indra. But unfortunately, King Nahusha, although previously very humble, became affected by the power of being the King Indra, and he started to commit offence, and he wanted to have now Sachi Devi, who was Indra, the former Indra's wife, was there in the palace, of course, so that her husband had left and no one could find him. And so now, after many years, still no one could find the Indra, and King Nahusha now was the Indra. So he thought that, well, she is here in the palace; she should be my wife. So he was approaching her like that, Sachi. So Sachi was very shocked, and she complained. She rebuked him, and she complained to all, I think, to the Brihaspati and to the other devas. But they devised a plan to bring this King Nahusha, because actually all the devas were complaining a little bit because he had become very arrogant and mistreated everyone. He demanded everyone just bow down and be his slave practically. So then the devas thought that originally it was a good choice, but now is not so good. So there was some trick that she would go there and outwardly agree to meet with him, King Sachi. And then she made a condition that you have to come by palanquin. He said, no, generally I come by the chariot. No, you have to come by the palanquin, and the palanquin has to be carried by the rishis. Only then will I go with you. So this was some plan. There's some other related story of Bhrigu Muni and Agastya, but there's many interrelated stories. But anyway, and one of those rishis, Brahmana rishis, who were carrying the palanquin was Agastya, but he was a little shorter than the other, so it was a little bit going. So so King Nahusha was becoming angry, and he gave him a kick on his head. And so one story, it must have been in different times this happened, but one story is Bhrigu was in the matted hairs of Agastya, and he cursed at King Nahusha. But another story is that Agastya himself cursed him that you have, because King Nahusha kept saying sharper, sharper, which in one sense means faster. Why are you carrying like this? And but Agastya became angry. Are you calling me sharp? You're saying sharper? Then you should become sharper, snake. So he cursed him to be a snake. But feeling some compassion, that snake, he said, you will be liberated at the time of the Pandavas. You know this story. You will be liberated at the time of the Pandavas, and Yudhishthira will be your liberator. So, you know, in the Mahabharata, that story, when Bhimsena, when Pandavas were in exile, they were in the Himalaya, and Bhimsena was going up to get some flowers or something for Draupadi, and there was one big snake there. And of course, this was King Nahusha. So when Bhima came there, who was very powerful, he was running through all the animals were fleeing and afraid of Bhimsena. But all of a sudden, when he came there, the big snake was there, and all of a sudden the snake wrapped him up. And Bhimsena he said, who is this impudent snake? I will just kill him. And he tried to become freed, but each time he tried, the snake would become more stronger. So he thought that this is not ordinary snake. So he said, who are you, sir, that you have bound me up? And he said, I am the King Nahusha. And only one who can answer my questions on the Dharma then only then will they be liberated. Only then will I let you loose. So Bhimsen understood that there's some intricate questions, so he thought that his brother only could answer these questions. So he thought of his brother, and Yudhisthira also noticed that Bhimsen wasn't there for some time, so he saw some ill omens also. So he went and he came there, and then he was talking to Nahusha, and then he asked many questions on the Dharma and all this stuff. And so Yudhisthira Maharaj was able to answer all the questions on Dharma. And then so Nahusha was very happy, and he released Bhimsen, and also he relinquished his snake body, and he ascended, he became his own self, and he ascended to the heaven again. So this is the story of Nahusha. But now we're coming to the story of, and Nahusha had all the sons and everything like that, Yati and Yayati. Yati was the first son, but Yati was the first son of Nahusha, but he left home, renounced path. So Yayati became the king. And so this story comes into this story of Yayati marrying Devayani, who was the daughter of Sukracharya, and he also then Samishta went with. There was a whole story of the, Devayani and Samishta having a big argument. Formerly they were friends, and Samishta pushing Devayani down a well. There was some fight over the clothes. Childish fight. All the ladies were together bathing in the river, but then I think it was that Shiva and Parvati went by, and then so they got dressed, but in the hurry, Samishta put the Devayani's clothes on. So then Devayani was very angry. Why did you put my clothes? You are just I'm the son, the daughter of Sukracharya. You dare to put my... So a big fight. Big fight. So Samishta got angry also back at Devayani, and then said some angry words to her, and then pushed her in the well. Pushed her in the well. And then it was King Yayati happened to be coming, and he saw some lady crying. He heard, and he looked down. He gave his cloth, and then he lifted her out. So then she said, "Well, now you must marry me." So it was arranged, and but when, of course, when Devayani went home and told Sukracharya what had happened to her father, he said, "This Devayani, brother Samishta, pushed me in the well, left me there naked." So, and she was crying and angry. And even though Sukracharya knew it was some childish thing, still out of affection for his daughter, he knew he had to take some action. So she said that, "So what do you want? That I'm going to marry with the Yayati, and Samishta and all of her friends should come as my maidservants there in the palace." And so this was the story. I think this was told earlier. So Samishta went, but Sukracharya told Yati, "Don't lie with Samishta. Devayani is your wife. She's the maidservant." But Samishta, when she saw Devayani, she had a child. She too wanted a child, so she approached Yayati, and then Yayati felt obliged. But then, of course, when Devayani found out, and then she complained to her father, Sukracharya, that's when Yayati got the curse, that you will lose all your youth, your manlyhood. "You are a lusty fool," he said, words, heavy words. And he cursed him. And so Yayati bowed down and begged Sukracharya, "All right, if you can exchange your old age with someone for their youth." So this is how this story is coming, isn't it? I give you this benediction. All right, I've cursed you. I cannot take back the curse. You will lose your youth and you will become an old man. So of course, when King Yayati begged him, I said, "I'm a young man. I have not finished my life in the Grihastha ashram. Already prematurely, I am old. Normally, one goes slowly, and then it satisfies the material desires, and then at the end, renounces like that." So that's when he said, "All right, then you can exchange." But when he asked his sons, to exchange their youth, they disagreed. accept that. And also, it is mentioned also earlier that King Yadu disagreed like the other brothers, but King Yadu's reason for disagreeing was different from the other brothers. The other brothers were just thinking of their own enjoyment. So they're not following the instruction of their father, was very disloyal and disobedient and irreligious. And this verse talks about the benediction of life that comes from the father. But Yadu was different, that he thought that, well, I have to live my life and then renounce, so then Krishna can come in my line. So he was thinking of the greater thing. Although it appeared the same, he rejected the instruction of his father, just like the brothers, but their reason was different, and Yadu's was different to theirs. So he was a very elevated Yadu, and that's why Krishna came in the dynasty of Yadu. So here we're finding that today, in the second verse, we're at number 43. No, the 42 was the first verse. Aprichet Tanayam Purum. King Yati requested Puru, who was the younger brother. Actually, he was the son of Samishta. He was the son of Samishta, not of Devayani. But he was the younger one of all the brothers. My dear son, do not be disobedient like your elder brothers. That is not your duty. So, of course, in the Vedic times, father would be very much respected. These personalities, like the guru, the father, the king, the brahmana, so on, respected elders of society. And someone who disrespects them or doesn't follow their instruction is considered adhami, irreligious person. And he will get the sinful reactions for not following the instruction of the elders who are worshipable, like the guru. They are supposed to be the representative of God, all these personalities. The mother, the father, the brahmana, the cow, the bull, these two persons, the king, the guru, these personalities, considered to be very dear to God and representatives of the Supreme Personality of God. So if one doesn't follow, and the Father, of course, gives one the seed of life. Here Prabhupada explains, the Father gives the seed of the body, and this seed gradually grows and develops until one ultimately attains the developed human body with consciousness higher than that of the animals. And in the human body, one can be elevated to the heavens, to the heavenly higher planets, and if one cultivates the Krishna consciousness and attains perfection, one can even go back home, back to Godhead from the human form of life. So human form has got a higher level of developed consciousness than the other species of life. This is the special benediction. So although, as Prabhupada explains, that the living entity has had many fathers and mothers in different species of life. We have to think about this. Before we were the dog or the cat or the bird, and every species has the mother and the father. So we had many mothers and fathers. But the mother and father that gives the living entity the body of the human, they're a little bit special, because now you've got opportunity with greater consciousness to cultivate and organize your life in such a way that you will be elevated to the higher position, even going to the higher planets, or even if one takes up the Krishna consciousness, go back home, back to Godhead. So therefore it is said that human life only starts, real human life, civilized human life only starts when there is the religion. Religion is what separates humans from the animals. Okay. In the animal society, other species society, there's no religion. They don't have religion. They don't have the consciousness, the intelligence to think in this way. They know eating, they know sleeping, they know mating, they know fighting, they know these things. But they don't know what is the God, and they don't make any inquiry. Their consciousness is too covered over, you understand, by the modes of nature, especially in the animal, is mainly in the mode of ignorance. So when there is a covering of the ignorance, heavy covering of ignorance, there cannot be understanding of even desire for the God consciousness. The God consciousness desire generally comes from the mode of goodness. Or unless one gets the mercy of a very great devotee of the Supreme Personality. One may be, even as a human, in ignorance, very covered, doesn't have any desire for the God consciousness, doesn't even think these things. But if one, by chance or by good fortune, gets the mercy of a very great devotee, then that even though the consciousness is covered, the potency of the pure devotee who is representing Krishna can go deep in the heart and uncover the consciousness to come to give the spark, to come up to the higher platforms and come also to start the path of the God consciousness. But generally speaking, human society is differentiated by the religious process, and in the religious process, in the Vedic times, of course, there would be the Varna and the Ashrama. One would go gradually. One would be regulated. Especially in Kali Yuga, the mode of ignorance and passion is very strong. The desire for sense gratification is very strong. But the Vedic Shastra, and especially Varnashram, regulates that, because otherwise one is very unregulated. One doesn't follow any principles. And if one doesn't follow any principles, society is not considered civilized. Not civilized humans. Civilized human society means that there's some process of religion and process, and especially in the Vedic tradition, in the process of Varnashram. Then it's a civilized society. But in the lower stages, mainly people are interested in economic development. The four main categories in the lower stage of human civilization is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So Dharma means they're religious, but the motivation for being religious, Dharma, Artha, is economic development. And we see, especially the forefathers, our forefathers in India, in Western countries, they put the temples, they made the churches, they made the mosque, they made many religious places, and the people would come to do the worship. And they would worship God in their different tradition. So some religiosity. So you see in the past, there was always a religiosity, but the religiosity was motivated for the economic development. Dharma, Artha. Economic. And why economic development? Because with economic development, then one can have the karma, sense gratification. If you haven't got economic development, you don't make the city, you don't make the road, you don't make the building, you don't make all the different things, then you can't enjoy with this body. So therefore, then the Dharma, Artha, praying to God for give us the blessings, give us all our food, give us all the nice facility, and then with the nice facility we can enjoy. But quite often we see Dharma, Artha, calm, the sense. Then when they get the calm, the sense, then they forget about God. They forget. They no longer, and we're finding originally the forefathers put the temples, put the mosque, put the churches, and Prabhupada comments, we were just giving a class yesterday in Christchurch where in the purport Prabhupada says, but practically we're seeing, even though the forefathers put and made the churches and the temples and everything like that, now practically we're seeing they're empty. Because the people, originally, they went to the church, they went to the temple, they were doing the praying, doing the worship, and they got their economic development, they got their sense gratification, and now they don't need God anymore. Now we've got everything. God was the one who gave the blessing to get these things, but they're so childish they just forget. They don't go very much to the church anymore. We've got everything. Why do we need God now? We prayed to God, God has given us, so why do we need God anymore? We've got everything. So this is their very foolish and very childish mentality. Because these things are ultimately temporary, but they're given by God. So God can give you, but He can take away. God is considered like Supreme Father, just like we have Mother and Father to give us the body. But there is the Supreme Father. He is the Father of all the fathers. That is God. So God just like one's father, if there's children, the children can ask so many things from the father. Daddy, I want this. Daddy, I want that. Daddy, I want ice cream. Daddy can give. Daddy, I want more ice cream. No, you already had enough. Too much. No, I want. Crying. Is it? No, you cannot have. You see. So God is like the father. So he can give, but when he sees that his sons and daughters, they're abusing, he can also take away. So this is what happens. God can take away again. They're abusing. They're competing with one another. God wants everyone to live together peacefully. But because they're just concentrating on the artha and calm, economic development strong, to make more money. God, money is their God. They worship the money. They can get more money. That is more important than God. What is good and what is the good of God? When we get money, we can get everything. So then when they get the money, then they forget God. But then God can just take it away. So they want all these things, they enjoy. But sometimes, of course, they plan with economic development. They plan all things, but, living in the world, one's plans doesn't always come to fruition. You might have a plan, I'm going to get good job America, good job UK, good job Australia, good job, make a lot of money, like that. You can have good plan, but then you go, your plan doesn't work. Somehow or other, everything is finished. So then one becomes very frustrated, or one becomes very angry, sometimes wants to blame God. We pray to God, we get these things, and then when God takes away again, we become angry at God. Why God did like that? There is no God. So this is the moksha. Then one becomes very frustrated, become angry and frustrated and angry with God, and just wants to detach, renounce everything, and go on for the camp. But even that they cannot do. Maybe they want to go to the Brahman. Therefore, no God. Just I am the God. As Prabhupada writes in many places, this is the last snare of the Maya. You see, God didn't. You prayed to God, He gave it, but then something went wrong. You blame God. There can be no God. If there's God, why He did like this? Therefore, there can be no God. You see, in their twisted logic, they come to this conclusion. Therefore, there cannot be God. So therefore, I renounce everything. If my plans are not working, therefore I renounce everything. I'll become one with God. I will become the God. Now let me do the meditation. Let me go to the cave. Let me do all these things, and I'll become like the Brahman, and I'll be the God. So this is also Maya, because I am still in the center, which is not the natural position of the living entity. God is in the center. We are connected. So we are becoming God, but we cannot maintain this position, the artificial situation. Although one may think, but actually artificial. So generally it is like that. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But then one again comes down to the material platform. But luckily Srimad Bhagavatam is compiled by Vyasadeva in his maturity. Even though Vyasadeva saw the people of Kali Yuga divided in the Veda into the four parts, but even then he thought the Mahabharata, Puranas, still not fully satisfied. Then Narad Muni, of course, we know. He came to Narad Muni, his guru. Said, you have described so many things, but you have not established the supremacy of Krishna, who is the origin of all. He has all the full qualities of everything, of everyone. He is that one that actually everything emanates, and you have not described, you have mentioned, but you have not fully, you have not exclusively. For only by this, especially for the people of Kali Yuga, can they actually be satisfied, can they actually be freed. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam presents Krishna, the personality Krishna. Of course, in the beginning, Shaga, Vishaga, there are the 10 subject matters of the Bhagavatam. The Manus and the Manvantara and the Yuga Avatar, and all the different subjects of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And finally, in the end, we come to the Krishna. And then we come to the Radha and Krishna. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is so high literature, so high, because it gives the topmost personality. He is the Purnam, even over all the incarnations. All the incarnations appear in the world, do their lila. They have the transcendental qualities. They are the supreme, but they cannot have the full quality. They are just like the moon. The moon has different phases, but Krishna is considered the Purnam, the full moon, with all the qualities. Krishna has qualities even above the Vishnu, even above Narayan. We know that Lakshmi was attracted to go in the Leela of dancing with Krishna, but she could not go inside. She was not qualified, because she still was, even the wife of Vishnu, she could not go inside, because not in the mood of the love of the gopis. So Krishna is topmost. So therefore, the Father who gives the human body is very worshipable. There's one statement in the Shastra that actually the children every day should circumambulate the parents, touch their feet, offer obeisances like that. Give respect to the mother and the father. But the best mother and father, and the best father is mentioned here, because every living entity has so many mothers and fathers. Even cats and dogs have fathers, as Prabhupada says. But one who can award the son the greatest benediction by teaching him to become a devotee, that is the greatest father. If your father, because if the father can teach the son religiosity, that is the duty of the father. Therefore the father has to be respected. Every father with duty is obligated. In human civilization, father must be like that. Must instill in the children the religiosity. Otherwise, life will become animal life. So the parents must give the religiosity. But the father and the mother who gives the actual Krishna consciousness, because the religiosity may mean Varna and ashram and so many rituals and so many, one can gradually, but someone who gives the Krishna consciousness, which is the topmost, which is even beyond the Kama Kanda, the Jnana Kanda, even Upasana Kanda, that may mention the Vishnu liberation. If someone can give the Krishna, the Supreme Personality Krishna, to the children, that is the topmost father. The topmost father. So here, Prabhupada says, therefore the father who trains his child in Krishna consciousness is the most benevolent father in this world. Janame janame sabe pita mata paya. After many births and deaths, pita mata paya. Krishna guru. If the pita and the mata, the father and the mother can give the Krishna, if they can be like that, to be the guru and give Krishna. Now, Bhaja Hari, Hari, Mile Bhaja Hari, and give the path of the Krishna consciousness. Everyone gets father, mother, but if one gets the benediction of Krishna and Guru, he can conquer material nature and return on back to Godhead. So, this is the best father and mother. So, one is very fortunate to take birth in the family of the Vaishnavas. Very, very fortunate. It's said after many births, one can be elevated. There are some yogis who practice yoga for a long, long time, and they can be elevated to the higher planetary systems, can be rewarded in so many ways, even to the level of Brahman. But someone who is very blessed, after many years of devotional activities, can take birth in the devotee family, and the blessing of the devotee family is one gets trained from the young age how to understand Krishna, how to understand Guru. So Guru and Krishna, and then one can eventually conquer over the mode, the effects of the modes of material nature, return home back to Godhead. And here, by the mercy of one's father, one gets the human form, which can enable one to become an associate of the Supreme Lord. A very high, high position. Devotional service itself is very high position to come to actually practice devotional service. Because devotional service means with purity. This is actual bhakti. Actual bhakti means no motivation for karma or gyan or anything like that. So this is actually bhakti. Generally, people take, as I said, people take the religiosity for the Dharma and the Artha and the Karma, for the Artha and the Karma. Economic development, that is all in all. My life is dedicated to economic development. And why? To get the Karma, sense gratification. That is the goal of my life. The goal of my life. And then maybe my forefathers did the religiosity. Actually, a lot of these cities, everything built up by the forefathers, isn't it? Built up by the cities were made many hundreds of years ago by the forefathers, who initially put so many churches, temples and so on like that. When you go, even in the Western cities, you'll see so many churches everywhere, on every corner practically, because the forefathers had some idea of the religiosity, even in the Western country. Of course, it was the Christian following the Christian mainly, and in the Muslim country, same in the mosque. You go to the Muslim country, every corner. Still, in many countries, in Islamic countries, still have every corner there's a mosque. And they go for the prayers. But gradually, especially in Western countries, it's becoming empty. India also, temple empty. Papa didn't want our temple to empty, just idle, nothing going on. But our temple should be always vibrant every day. So he wanted an everyday program, Mangalati, Kirtan, worship the deities, all like the hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the life. This is the potency of the temple. Very important. One can be at home and also practice, but there's many distractions in the home. And very easily you can do something else. In the temple, when you come, you just can sit. You can see the deity. Just to sit in front of the deity is so auspicious. To be in front. So even if you don't hear anything, just sitting. One time Prabhupada said at the last part of his life, he said, when he was very ill, they had to carry him from his room by the palanquin into the temple. And then he would take darshan and then he would go outside for circumambulation of the deity. He'd be carried. And he stopped one time and he said to one disciple, he said, if you can just do this one thing your whole life, then your life will be perfect. If you don't do anything, just this thing, go around the temple, your life can be perfect. So anything we do, just sitting in the temple, seeing the deity, chanting Hare Krishna, hearing. Of course, if you can put all the elements, then so much more benefit. Even if you can do one thing, but if you can do many things, how much more benefit you'll get, isn't it? One can think, oh, all right, I'll just do the one thing. But if you can do one thing, why not do two things? Why not do the three things? Isn't it? Of course, if you do one thing, it's good. Very good. I'll just come to the temple and eat the prasada. Very good. One time, one disciple of Prabhupada, when he came to Melbourne one time, someone asked, Prabhupada, is eating too much prasadam bad? They said. He said, eating prasadam can never be bad. He said, because it is Krishna's prasadam. But eating too much is not very good. He said, it never can be bad, can be a bad thing. It's Krishna prasadam. So yes, so all elements are there, just like going to the school. Going to the school, you know, if you have good teacher, if you have good books, you have good, you know, institution is there, right? But you also have to be a good student. And so, but if you're a good student but you don't have good teacher, you don't have the good books. So, but if you have all the elements, then it'll be very successful. So in Krishna consciousness, we try to incorporate all the different elements. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Shmaranam, Padaseva, all the different things, especially these angas, and try to follow the mood of Lord Chaitanya, especially it is mentioned, Trinadapi Sunichana Tarorapi Amanina Madana Kirtaniyasana. This should be, in Briyat Bhagavana Rita is mentioned that this should be like a necklace around your neck. Trinadapi Sunichana Tarorapi Amanina Madana. These four things. Lord Nityananda was one time in the Navadvip Mahatmya, he was advising Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami said, how can one keep Lord Chaitanya in the heart? He said, first, he said, these four things, Trinadapi Sunica, Tarorapi Sishna. He said that more humble than the grass, more tolerant than the tree, devoid of, don't expect respect, but give respect to everyone. These 4 things, and always chant Hare Krishna mantra. You follow very sincerely, then Lord Chaitanya will be in your heart. Then by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, by serving Lord Chaitanya with humility and tolerance and patience, then one can begin to understand Radha and Krishna. Actually, one cannot begin to understand Radha and Krishna without the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And one can't get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. First, he said, first you have to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. So Lord Nityananda was instructing Jiva Goswami in this way. These things are very essential if one wants to advance on the path of Krishna consciousness. And so the father who teaches the son, the daughter, these things, well, he is the best father. Because other fathers may give so many other things. One father may not have so many material things to give, but just gives the Krishna consciousness. Who is the best one? The one who gives the Krishna consciousness. Maybe he's not able to give the rich things like the other father, but the other father gives so many rich things but doesn't give any spiritual. But if the father who gives the spiritual, he is the best father. So such a father is always to be worshipped, respected, and one is always obligated. But the way to repay the father is you become devotee, and then the father is very happy. All right, I'll read this last verse again. Puru replied, "O your majesty, who in this world can repay his debt to his father? By the mercy of one's father, one gets a human form of life which can enable one to become an associate of the Supreme Lord." Does anyone have any question? Comment? Yes, Prabhu.
We were talking about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So the Dharma that leads to the Kama, is that system of religiosity that based on Karma Kanda?
Sorry.
That system of religiosity, the Dharma, is that based on Karma Kanda?
Yeah, it's generally based on the Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda section of the... Karma Kanda section is... But that, yeah, okay, you know. Generally, at least they're religious. At least and therefore they can be... The human society can be called civilized. They're civilized. But of course their motivation, because that's on the lower level of human civilization. They're religious because they want the artha, economic development, and then they want the Kama. So generally society, especially Kali Yuga, but even Kali Yuga they're abandoning even the religiosity. But some are still, and they go to economic development and sense gratification. So that's the Karma Kanda. Then the Jnana Kanda, one tries to go to the Brahman planet. Or, you know, also in the Karma Kanda is elevation to a higher planet. You know, economic development and perform the different rituals and ceremonies, and sometimes one is very pious, one can go to higher planets even. That's also Karma Kanda. Higher planetary systems, Deva worship, how to go to the planets of the big demigods. This is also Karma Kanda. Jnana Kanda is the study, all these different things. Brahman realization. Upasana Kanda can be Paramatma, or a different avatar, Vishnu worship. But Bhagavatam is even considered higher than Upasana Kanda because it's specifically Krishna. And Upasana Kanda can mean so many other avatar. But Bhagavatam specifically is Krishna. Although in Bhagavatam also there's mention of other Leela avatars and Guna avatars, and this, but in the end it comes to Krishna. So therefore we have, you know, the Veda, and we have the Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda, but then we have Purana, and of the Purana, the Bhagavat Purana. Purana, even Vyasadeva gave some main Purana and some sub-Purana. Mainly he gave some for the persons more in the mode of ignorance, some more in the mode of passion, some Purana for them, how to live the life, some instruction is there, some more for those more in the mode of goodness. And so the Bhagavatam is more in the mode of goodness, but not only, but the pure, Suddha Sattva, the pure goodness. So we have all these different levels, and Krishna is always thinking how to engage everyone, and everyone's on different level, and they have desire to only go on this level. So Krishna engages them on that level, but gradually the idea is to bring up. But that doesn't mean someone can go directly. One wants, by the mercy of a great devotee, one gets good desire, can go directly to Bhagavatam, to this thing. So Father who gives like that, Guru who gives like that, the best. Any other question? Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.